Okay. All right. Well, good morning. Hey, good morning for Panic and Rehab. Good morning, Big Tony Speaks. How you
What
doing?
is going on? I'm doing great this morning. Barely awake, but I'm doing great.
I know. Hey,
It
listen.
has been hard this morning for some reason to get woke up. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Well, we're
I'm
we're
here.
we're here for Empty Pockets podcast and the Carl, the Killer Carl Radio Network, and I'm getting feedback here on my line. What do
I'm
I
not
got on?
hearing anything. Let me check some adjustments here.
And
I think that might be it right there.
okay,
Is it better?
yeah,
Okay.
a little bit.
My reverb somehow got turned up.
Okay, and here, let me just make sure. Okay, did that do anything?
I don't hear any difference.
Oh, that made you go down. Okay. Well, anyway, so I've taken a few weeks off only because I've got so much to do. So I've neglected my house for 9 years. I've been on the road for 9 years, and I just got repairs haphazardly done on the fly when I was home on the weekends or a few days out of the months,
Right.
and now it's all come up as I'm painting the house, and it's so ugly that the repairs that everybody did that I've got to go back and cover and redo it right to where it
Yeah.
looks like a freaking house again or looks prettier. But what a job. It's just driving me crazy. So anyway, I got my brother-in-law, my poor brother-in-law has come over and helped me, and now he's going to file workman's comp on me because I'm pushing him so hard. So we're having fun with that. How's what was your show about last night, Big Tony? Big Tony comes on at 6 o'clock Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, last night, I was talking about what was it? Talking about the Muslim situation. I also talked about radioactive hogs.
Yep, that's
You know,
awesome.
in the Fukushima area. You know what I mean? They're having an issue. Because they're hybrids. They're hybrid with the wild boar and the domestic pig.
Right.
Um, Domestic pigs breed really, really fast,
Hmm.
and wild boars they only breed once a year. So now you've got these radioactive wild boars in the no go zone that's too radioactive that are hybrid with domestic pigs, and they're breeding like super fast, and they're these giant muscular wild boars, and they're procreating so fast that they can't even cull them fast enough.
Yeah.
They're out there trying to kill them off and cull off, keep the numbers down so they're not a big problem, and they can't do it fast enough.
Yeah. And they're smart. Pig
They are.
pigs are smart. They've decimated all of our acreage in Florida. I mean, you'll see them on the turnpike. You'll see a whole family of hogs on the turnpike rooting on the worms and everything on the side.
Right, right.
They in Texas, I hear you can go on a hog hunt in a helicopter and just shoot them
Right.
from a helicopter. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that. So
Yeah,
I guess
that's probably fun. I've never done it, but
I'm I'm
I've
never going to
talked
do
to
that.
people who have done it.
No. Yeah,
You
no.
know,
That's too much moving parts, and then you stick a armed gun you stick a weapon in there, forget it,
yeah, you got a live weapon. You're in a helicopter flying and moving, and
Yeah.
trying to shoot these boars.
Well, this is Panic and Rehab Rundown, and this site was developed by Tyler, who worked in a radio station, and we all got up to help him at 5 a.m. He had this idea for this show, which was non-political. Now, the rest of his job from 6 in the morning till whenever was all political. So he needed a break from the politics. So he put together this Panic and Rehab, which celebrates famous birthdays for the day in history, which today is May 21st. And then it
Right.
goes, what's the observance for the day? And then history events for the day. Now you guys have evolved it into some weird history. I didn't look up any like really psycho weird history, but if you have, please, tell
I
us about
didn't
it.
get anything for this morning. I can pull some up. Let's see
Okay.
what I can find while
Well,
you're
I'm doing it. All right. Well, let me see if I know how to do this. I'm going to share the screen. All right. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, we're going to go down to here, and the today's birthday. Um, I'm going to pull this out. I'm not going to share it. Hang on. Let me see if I can do this, Tony. I don't know what I'm doing. You know that. Share. Okay. Today's first birthday is Julius Caesar. This is the mother of Julius Caesar, born in Rome, played a key role in the Roman history. Like every strong mother, you're going to have every strong mother has, of course, a son, and I'm not saying a son. I'm just saying every strong mother would raise a strong person, a female, male in their family. So she must have been one hell of a strong mother who raised Julius Caesar, who went on to become the expansion of Rome. He was a battle general. You know much about Julius Caesar, a battle general. Then he became Caesar, and then he was married, had children, and then he married the Queen of Egypt, right?
right.
So and he did that politically. So you can imagine that you talk about a guy who gave his whole life to Rome and the development of expansion of Rome throughout the world. I mean, just and it was what 1,000 years, 2,000 year rule of Rome. So I
Right.
mean, he
Right.
was the start of it, and he was even killed by his own what assassinated in the Senate by his own
Yeah, yeah.
representatives. So
Yeah, that is the famous, et tu Brute event when
yeah,
he was betrayed by all his people in the Senate. And they all had to take part, otherwise, there would be some guilty and some innocent, and could be some betrayal going on. And even his apparent best friend Brutus took part, and that's where the quote "et tu, Brute," you too, Brutus.
right. And and I think jealousy becomes a part of that, where people are just basically jealous of Julius Caesar. But he was developed by his mother,
Well,
and
well, he
she
was
had she
perceived.
she had to be a tough lady.
Yeah, he was perceived to be ruling with too much of an iron fist, to be too um, tyrannical, as it were.
Hmm.
Um,
What did they?
Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. There were better ways to deal with it than that, in my opinion. But that's the way that they decided to deal with it.
Now, this is going to be an interesting. The way that this sets up is these people were all born on May 21st, and some history of May 21st also
Yeah,
plays
I
into
also
it.
have some weird events if you want.
Okay, but hang with me through this report because the
Sure.
next guy. All right, let me get him. Let me get him pulled up here. This all kind of ties in together with this. It's kind of weird, but you'll get it in a second, I guess. All right. So
Okay.
the next birthday is Notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace, born in 1972 in Brooklyn, New York, a legendary rapper
Yep.
whose debut album "Ready to Die" shaped East Coast hip hop music, if you can call it that. I'm not much of a rapper, okay, fan. I mean, all I know about rapping is that all I know about rapping was it's loud, they got a big beat, they had to make special speakers, so you
Well,
can get vibrated through your chair on, basically. And it
but
and those kinda tones goes right to my bones, and it irritates me, like the wind chimes. Everybody has these wind chimes. Those wind chimes irritate the crap out of me, and if I have to be outside working on something and you have a wind chime, I politely take it down and put it behind the hedge until I'm done, then I put it back up again when I leave, but I that's it. I can't take that stuff.
well,
It's like
it's kind of a natural progression, from the spoken word, that they used to do back in the 50s and 60s.
Mhm,
It's just a natural because they would play music over that, back then, and they would do their poetry or whatever to the music, and
mhm.
it's a natural progression, from that to rap, and then from rap to hip hop and et cetera and so on and so forth to what we have now. you
Yeah,
know
I'm and
and when the Notorious Big was doing his thing, it was still in the early days of rap music.
yeah.
And that was when all the really greats were around. You had Tupac Shakur, and all the really great ones, in rap music.
Yeah.
you know
I mean, Christopher Wallace was born in Brooklyn, New York. His mother, who raised him, had 3 jobs to support this guy. The reason he was named Big was in school, he was just bigger than all the other kids. He was just a big kid, outweighed them out. He was taller than they were. He was just a big guy. Probably should have been a bodyguard for somebody, but he got into music, got into some trouble, learned music through jail. He was arrested in North Carolina.
Mhm.
Um, had a ha got had a baby, had a baby, had a couple of things, but he really got into this rapping vibe, and he started, writing letters to music directors and people in running radio stations to play some of his music, and that's how he got started. I mean, it was hand to mouth, and he had to promote himself, which was really good. So he really, zoomed up through, the rap, um, charts with a lot of his music. Then the crowd started to be, you know, people that liked those rap concerts. All of a sudden, you had a whole crowd of Bloods, and you had a whole crowd of Crips, and then you
Yeah,
had
it became kind of a division, amongst the fans and amongst the artists. Now you can't leave the artists out. Many of them were Crips and Bloods and whatnot. Um, and the whole thing got divided up east and west, and
right.
Crips and Bloods, and et cetera. And that was um I don't in my opinion, that was kind of a black mark in time, in the rap industry.
Well, and he went to jail in North Carolina for selling drugs, and it was back
Uh-huh.
when crack first came out, and
Yep.
I mean, but again, he grew up poor. He's selling drugs. He's trying to make a living. He's rapping, but
Mhm.
a lot of people, and I'm one of them, because I do a lot of things civically. We have rural areas that have civic centers. We have
Right.
bingo halls in Florida. You don't want to just sit in your house all day long and not do anything. You want to get out and do stuff.
Right,
And
right.
so so my whole adult life basically has been trying to get people to do stuff, go to the civic center, play bingo, meet
Right, right.
together, try to
Book
build a
shows for people to go and see.
yeah, have a fish fry, have a pancake breakfast, look forward to something. I love farmers markets. We have farmer
Yeah.
markets all over the place.
I
We
wish
have,
ours would grow. It's tiny. We've
yeah,
got
we have,
one. It's right around the corner from where I live,
yeah,
and
and everybody's heard of Webster, Florida's flea market on Tuesdays. I mean,
yep.
it's awesome. Everybody's heard of the villages. I mean, that's a whole community of activities.
Right.
From pickleball, golf, tennis, swimming, softball to other
Sure.
other fornication things that they
Yeah,
do over
who
there, who
can catch
knows?
the worst disease? Oh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, they got all kind of activities, who knew naked bingo was a thing? But at the
right?
villages, it's a thing, yeah. But,
Oh,
but a lot of these raps, would hire these civic halls, okay? So they would come into a rural, civic center and say, "Hey, we wanna put on a rap, concert here," and the director would be, "Hell no, you can't do that, I mean, that's crazy," and they would get pressured into it, and then all of a
mhm,
sudden, before you knew it was a freaking full-blown riot at the civic hall, which the civic hall wasn't meant for that, it's not meant for violence, right? And they found out that a lot of drugs were being sold and distributed at these rap concerts.
mhm.
The reason for the concert was a cover for the drug activity, So who
Well,
knows?
I don't know if it was actually a cover for it, but they knew it was gonna happen. It's kinda like way back with the Grateful Dead. If
Hmm.
you went to a Grateful Dead concert, you knew there was gonna be a lot of drugs there.
Right.
You knew that you were not leaving sober.
Yeah,
You
and if you were driving a psychedelic panic, bus, you probably got pulled over before you got to the concert, and the drug dogs probably looked at everything in your
Right, right.
psychedelic, mobile home, before it got to a deadhead venue, but anyway, it didn't end well for Big. He died, was killed, and it was a horrible, way to go. It was right after the Soul Train
Mhm.
Awards on
Yep.
March 8th, ''97. So he's born in 72, 1997. Let's see, what did all that get him? 19, where he could have just been a bodyguard and lived a good long life. 25 he was 25 years old.
Yep.
20 25 years old. He could have lived for another 50 years, lived at a ripe old age of 75, but he attended the Soul Train Awards after party hosted by Vibe and Quest
Mhm.
Records at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, California. After the party, he and his crew get in a rented Chevrolet Suburban that they had rented from Budget Rent a Car, and he traveled in the front passenger seat alongside associate Damon D. Rock Butler, Little
Yep.
Cease, the driver Gregory G. Money Young. Combs traveled in other Suburbans with 3 bodyguards and 2 trucks. So, Combs, I think that's pictured there in the white suit.
Yeah,
He
Sean
got in
Puffy Combs,
he
otherwise
got in
known
another.
nowadays as, Diddy.
Yeah, P. Diddy, there's Diddy. So he was in another Suburban with 3 bodyguards, and the 2 trucks were trailed by a Chevrolet Blazer carrying bad boy director of security Paul Oxford. Soon after Wallace Suburban stopped at a red light, a black Chevrolet Impala. So these 3 cars, 2 Suburbans, 1 Blazer, are traveling like a presidential entourage, leaving the
Mhm.
party at Peterson Automotive Museum, and a black Chevrolet Impala pulls up right side of the car Wallace was in. The Impala driver, described as an unidentified American man in a blue suit, bow tie, rolls down his window and drew out a blue steel 9mm pistol and fired into Wallace's vehicle. Wallace was struck 4 bullets. So they sent him to Mount Sinai Cedar Sinai Medical Center, which is a Jewish. Okay, just so if you know, if you see Sinai in the hospital, yeah, you want to go to that
Yeah.
hospital if you got a bullet in
Right.
you.
It
Trust
is
me.
one of the best.
Yeah.
And the bullet that killed him, however, was kind of interesting. The way it did so.
Mhm.
It went into his hip and went up through his lungs, his heart, and ended up coming to rest in his shoulder, the opposite side shoulder. So it
Yeah.
went diagonally from his hip up across his body and came to rest in his shoulder.
Well, okay, so somebody's shooting at you and you're in a car. Are you gonna look toward the bullet, or are you gonna turn and go toward the driver, like trying maybe to jump through that other window of the driver?
Well, a smart move would be to lay down, to
Well,
lay down on the seat, or whatever,
well,
between the
well,
seats, whatever. And because then you at least have the metal of the door uh,
Yeah, well,
between you and the shooter.
well,
And
well, this guy's as big as my dad. He's not laying down anywhere in a car, man. I'm telling you that right now. This guy turned and tried to go through the driver's window, leaving his butthole exposed, and that's where the bullet went right up through his colon, liver, heart, and lung before resting in his shoulder. Trust me, I'm telling you. I mean, it's like, and that's just a natural escape. I mean, you just want, basically, you want out of the vehicle. I mean, somebody starts shooting, you're like, you want to get out, or you want to get down, like you said, get down, get out, whatever. But anyway, it's sad. 25-year-old. Hey, 25-year-olds out there, if you're you don't have to live like that, man. You don't have to you don't have to live like that. You can live to be 100 years old. Nice, safe. Way to go. So let's talk, we're going to talk about something. We're going to yeah, let me escape out of that. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Mr. T. Here we go. This is Mr. T. Mr. T. I love Mr.
a
T.
pity the fool.
Oh yeah, man.
That was it. That was his phrase, man. I pity the fool.
Oh yeah. Well, Mr.
There he
T
is.
Mr. T was born on May 21st in 1952. He's 8 years older than me. So Mr. T, and he's still alive. Mr. T, American actor, wrestler, famous for the A Team and his iconic catchphrase, "I pity the fool," right?
I
Lawrence
remember the
T.
times when what you're seeing right there on the screen. I remember when he was a wrestler.
Oh yeah. Mr. T was an awesome wrestler. There's Rowdy Piper on his
Yep.
shoulders, and
Yep.
there's Hulk Hogan right
Yep.
there. So
Yeah.
out of this photograph, there's only one person still alive, and it's Mr. T. That's
That's right.
right.
That's right.
Uh, and this is one of my favorite. Let's see. I had one. I had another one that was awesome of Mr. T. Oh, there it is. Okay, good, perfect. Now let me see if I can't share this up. Window. Mr. T at playing Santa Claus for Mrs. Reagan, Nancy
Yep. Nancy
Reagan.
Reagan sitting there on his lap.
Yeah.
And he
So
didn't go
Miss
anywhere that he didn't wear all of those chains, man. It had to
Yeah,
be heavy, heavy, heavy weight on his neck and back.
yeah. Well, I mean, they can't. Yeah, there's
That
a kind
was
of
that was his trademark, you know.
well, there's
Besides the mohawk and the iconic tough guy image, those chains were his trademark.
oh yeah. That's right. That's right. Mr. T has appeared in numerous TV commercials, including Snickers, Atari, the World Warcraft, MCI, Comcast, Radio
Mhm.
Shack. Man, you remember Radio Shack? Where the heck
Oh
is
yeah,
Radio
yeah,
Shack?
yeah. I
Forbes.
used to be a regular customer at Radio Shack.
Who wouldn't? Who wasn't? I think I bought my first radio at Radio Shack. Forbes described him as one of the most enduring pitchmen in the business. So his best year, at his peak, he was earning $5 million a year just doing commercials.
Right.
So young people, you can be a rapper and die at 25, or you can be Mr. T and have the first lady on your lap as you're
Right.
dressed as Santa Claus making $5 million pitching products. I mean, pick one. You know what I mean? Just pick one. All right. Well, happy birthday, Mr. T. All right. Let's see. Now, our next birthday is Rick Jason. Rick Jason just doesn't get enough credit, so we're gonna talk about Rick Jason. Anybody that grew up in the '70s like I did, '60s and '70s, every Saturday morning we got to watch a program called Combat, right? And it basically was about World War II. Well, Rick Jason was an actor in Combat, and he starred in it from 1962 to 1967, 5 years. He was born Richard Jacobson of Brooklyn, New York, to a Jewish family as a child. He was a good student. But the reason Rick knew a lot about the Army because he served from 1943 to 1945 in the U.S. Army Air Corps during World War II. So, I mean, he was in the thick of it. So that was the bomber squad of World War II, and they lost the U.S. Army Air Corps lost 62,000 airmen. That's how many people they
Yeah.
in World War II lost in the air. They had you that was one of the roughest battles ever was the air battle over Europe and Japan. Um, so yeah, that this guy knew a lot about it. He also visited the American troops on several USO tours in Vietnam. So we really wanted to talk about Rick Jason, an actor, a serviceman. We appreciate your service, and he doesn't get enough credit. So happy birthday, Rick Jason. Passed away in 2000. So let's see how long. Even though he went to a war and he participated in a war, let's see how old he was. 2000 minus 1923. Holy cow. 77. See, rappers, you can live to be 77 years old and survive being in World War II. There you go. Instead of dying at 25.
Yeah,
That's
well,
just
but nowadays, more and more of your rap slash hip hop artists are tending to try to move away from that whole gangland type life and everything. Even though some of them still uh, rap about that life, that's it's kind of what they knew.
mhm.
You know, many of them are trying to move away from that and distance themselves from that image. Um, to kind of prevent things like that from happening
Well,
because
well,
the
well,
whole thing is they would come out of those gangs, the Crips, the Bloods, whatever gang they happened to be a part of as a younger person. They would come out of those gangs, and well, that was all they knew. So that was what they would rap about, and the drugs, and the women, and the guns, and the cops, and all this, and well, that resonated with the other gang members, so that was their fan base. And when you put gang members in a room together, if something is going to pop off.
yeah,
So
like two motorcycle clubs, like
right,
yeah.
right. You put like the Outlaws and the Hell's Angels together, and something's going to happen.
Yeah, see, that's going to be a party. Yeah,
I
it's
mean, but I mean,
well,
but that's the situation that was going on. And nowadays a lot of your rap slash hip hop artists are trying to move away from that image, away from that history. They'll still write songs that refer to that time in their lives or whatever. They're trying to move away from that to kind of reduce the chances of something big popping off or somebody dying. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Because I mean, we had we had Tupac, Suge Knight, Notorious Big, so many of them, the biggest top stars in rap have gone that direction, and
Why
died because of it.
why couldn't they have taken some of the people from the 70s music industry like Paul Simon with them? Maybe, after 50 years of James Taylor, he could go too. I mean, come on. How come nothing happens to those guys? I mean, we keep
Yeah,
hearing
well,
those songs every day.
they weren't like gang members.
We
They
kept
weren't
hearing
they weren't repping the Bloods or the Crips.
we we kept hearing the same songs every day for the last 40 years that they had to invent, Spotify and things like that so we could actually hear different kind of music. So, yeah. Finally. Well, today's observance is International Tea Day, proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in 2019, that recognizes tea as the beverage with more than 5,000 years of documented history in China, to the pillar of culture across Asia, Africa, and the British Isles, livelihood of millions of smallholder farms. All right. So what what are you saying that Tea Day is proclaimed by the UN General Assembly? Is it is the UN General Assembly just trying to kiss China's ass or what? I mean, what
Well, well, not trying to wax all political because I mean this show
we're
is a break from politics, but the UN is part of that whole globalist cabal. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
The WEF and all of that good stuff.
we're
And
I
and,
want the UN General Assembly to have a beer day for the United States. I mean, that's our beverage of choice, right?
but yeah, they're part of that whole globalist thing, and they do tend to lean towards the communist nations, as far as in their sympathies and in their observances, things like that. Um, so I mean, I take anything the UN does, you know, with a grain of salt. It's just BS.
I guess.
We, I personally, I believe the United States started the UN. Okay, and we continue to provide the majority of the funding for the UN. I personally believe that we should separate from the UN and let it die
Yeah,
because the,
I,
the rest of the nations aren't going to hold their
it doesn't
carry their weight,
it
and it's
it
going to
it
die.
it doesn't seem to be working, and now it's turning into
It's
basically
obsolete.
yeah, how to fleece American taxpayers basically is what
You
it's turned into,
know,
one scam after another.
the UN and NATO were both created by the US, and they were for a different time.
Mhm.
They're obsolete. They're not working. It doesn't. The formula does not work in modern times, and therefore they need to go the way of the dinosaur. Just let them go, let them die,
Yep,
and maybe in the future we come up with something different, something new, something greater. You
yeah,
know,
got that right. Alright, so how do you say this word? It's Jewish for Shabbat? Shabbat? Is the VB in Jewish? So it's the Jewish Harvest Festival commemorating the giving of the Torah of Mount Sinai, observed all night Torah readings and readings of the Book of Ruth, and the eating of dairy foods, traditionally tied to the metaphor of the Turan as milk and honey. So, um,
Mhm.
but it's the festival committing it's the harvest. So a lot of Jewish families build like a little hut. They build like a little lean-to, don't they, in their backyard?
Mhm.
A harvest, a lean-to, because I see that in South Florida, and we have big Jewish
Yeah, you
population
do.
in South Florida.
You
So
have a very large Jewish population
and
down there.
and and it's great, great. But I see that I've seen the little lean-tos. It's
Uh
like
huh.
a little portable structure that they build, and that's where I guess they celebrate the harvest, which is good. We should all
Mhm.
celebrate a harvest of something because it means we grew it. We grew what we're harvesting, and you should
Yeah,
be
well,
proud of it.
the
You should be
celebration
proud
of
of
the
your harvest.
harvest,
Yeah.
the celebration of the harvest means that the Lord saw fit to allow you to have a successful planting year,
Mhm.
and you had a bountiful harvest. That's the reason you celebrate the harvest, and to thank God or whatever your deity may be, around the world,
Mhm.
but to thank God for blessing your planting season and providing you with a bountiful harvest.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's also to get prepared for next planting season. You're offering, well, back in the day you were offering sacrifices to your God of out of your harvest, or if you were a sheep farmer or cow farmer or whatever, dairy farmer, you would give of your harvest whatever
mhm.
your uh, um occupation was. If you were, a sheep farmer, if you were an actual farmer raising grain or corn or tomatoes or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, they
You know,
celebrated their labor, and they
Mhm.
celebrated the hard work that goes into that, and the water, because farming, you have to think about, you got to get water to the plants, you got to get proper
Right.
soil to the plant, you got to get fertilizer to the plants, you got to get the seeds, you got to get the right seeds, you got to get the right people in place, you have to plan it out. There's a lot of basic planning that goes on with it.
Hmm.
Also, if you build a house, you got to get the supplies, you got to have the plans, you got to put the structure together, and then
Hmm.
enjoy after you built it, right? And celebrate the construction of something new. You're moving your progress, it's moving forward. And in our day's society, it seems like like those are all bad things.
Yeah.
They
Well,
don't
we take
celebrate
all
that.
that for granted, is what it
Yeah,
is. Is we take it for granted, and it's, you know, what are you going to do if that goes away?
yeah,
You know, I mean, because look, right now, it is absolutely not profitable to the farmer in, in the United States, at least.
yeah,
It is not profitable to that farmer to be out there, farming and providing that food to the American people.
yeah.
And when
And
if
it's not cool bringing in 90% produce from out of the country. It's not cool at all. It's not
uh,
cool.
I mean, it's well, it's not profitable, and therefore, if it's not profitable, the younger generations, as they come up and take over the farm, they're going to be like, "Why am I doing this? I can sell this and go into the tech industry, or I could sell this and I could go into oil, or I could sell this and go into the news. Buy a newspaper.
Right.
Anything is more profitable than that industry." And when all of it is finally gone, what are you going to do? You're going to eat the bugs, you're going to live in the pods, you're going to own nothing, and you are going to be happy. Why? Because they told you you were happy, and if you're not, you can lose the bugs and the pod. you
Yeah.
know
Great. I can't wait. Bring that on. Today's also Global Accessibility Awareness Day. It was founded in 2012 by a web developer, Joe Devon, and blogger Jensen whatever, to get digital communities to focus on accessibility for people with disabilities. So, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Okay, great. World Day for Culture, Diversity, and Dialogue and Development, proclaimed by UNICEF in 2001 following the Taliban destruction of the Babylonian Buddhas who promoted intercultural dialogue. All right. Historical events. Great. Well, we touched on this last week. It was Charles Lindbergh. And
Yep.
this guy was the coolest. He was the baddest and the coolest. This guy had a dream. I think he grew up in the Midwest. He grew up in St. Louis, Midwest, and Charles Lindbergh wanted to be the first man to fly across the Atlantic. Okay, his plane, and we're going to talk about this whole trip that he had to plan out. Well, first of all, Charles had to learn how to fly an airplane.
Right.
They just didn't give you a pilot's license. In fact, they didn't even have pilot's license. You had to go find a plane, buy a plane, and then learn to fly a plane. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's what he did, and he worked for the post office flying mail for the plane. My old man flew. He had they. My dad owned a plane with about four other guys, and they flew checks back in the '60s for banks. They would collect all the Jacksonville banks checks in Orlando, and they provided a service like FedEx, but they would fly all the checks to whatever destination city so they could crush them and cash them faster than sending checks through the mail to the origin bank. So if you had a bunch of checks from Miami, you'd put them all in a bag. If you had a bunch of checks from Jacksonville, you put them in another bag. You had a bunch of checks from Tampa and you put them in a bag. So you're in Orlando. So you had to take three flights. One flight would go to Jacksonville and pick up all the Orlando checks, come back. You would fly to Tampa, pick up all the Orlando checks and give them the bag of checks, and then Miami. So it's the whole thing, right? So it was kind of a flying service. And
Right. And real quick, Joseph. I don't know about chocolate covered grasshoppers, but chocolate covered ants aren't that bad.
yeah, oh,
I,
who who doesn't enjoy chocolate covered ants? I mean, for God's sakes, right?
well, I've had opportunity to try, delicacies from various parts of the world,
Yeah.
and you know,
Well,
ants
thanks.
ant, ants are, actual food in some parts of the world. I've had chocolate covered ants, which are actually not that bad, kind of weird. I've had potato grubs. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a fat worm.
Oh,
If it's
yeah.
if it's prepared and cooked properly, it actually tastes just like a potato.
Damn. I can't wait for that. I'll have
Eh,
two, please.
right,
Two, please.
right.
Gee. All right. All right. Okay. That's awesome. Well, Charles, Joseph, thank you. I am alive and well, just busy. I just had to get some stuff done before it got too dang hot in Florida. And it's rapidly approaching the 95-degree mark in Florida where you just can't work outside. You basically come outside, go for a swim, and then spend the rest of the day right inside, air conditioning. So it's
Right,
just,
and to your point about Lindbergh, um 5 years to the day after he made his flight, Amelia Earhart launched her flight, if you recall,
yeah.
5 years to the day. So
Well, so he got these investors in St. Louis. He got these investors in St. Louis to finance his flight attempt from the United States to Europe to fly over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this is the spirit of St. Louis. This is his route that he took from New York. He kind of went up through tried to get near Greenland, Iceland, and then over Ireland, Scotland, and then over into Paris. So that's where he ended up in Paris.
right.
He was basically the engine was a piston driven engine, 225 horsepower. So 220 horsepower engine. The gasoline, they built this airplane in California. So first he had to find a manufacturer to build his a special aircraft to fly that long of a distance without stopping for fuel. He had fuel. He had a gas. Basically, the whole plane behind the engine was a gas tank. And if you know anything about model planes or flew like RC planes, you probably built these before. You put the gasoline right behind the engine, believe it or not. That's kind of what
Mhm.
this diagram is. So
Yeah,
he
he had to
was
have a periscope to see over it and guide his plane.
exactly. So he couldn't even see out the front of the plane. He sat behind the gas tank and had a periscope up to look out, which that had to be tricky. And he had side windows. He had his food was underneath him, which was sandwiches and coffee,
Hmm.
and he had a raft behind him. So if he went down in the Atlantic, there was no rescue. I mean, there was no
Right,
ships. I mean, he was going to be in a raft. Okay,
right,
that's
right.
it. So I mean that's nerve. Me, I don't think that way. I always have three different plans for everything that I'm doing, and all of them include having a real AAA automobile card in my back pocket at all times when I'm on a trip, no matter what. I've always got AAA, right? So let's see.
AAA don't do you no good if you can't contact them.
Yeah, that's true. That's yeah. You got to be able to contact them. But he did make the trip, and he did
Hmm.
succeed, and he became probably the most celebrated pilot in the world. There is Lindbergh's plane over Paris, as you can see.
Right.
That's how big the Eiffel Tower is, man. It
Yeah,
is that big over the city.
it is.
Photos don't do it any justice because it's so freaking big, man. I mean, it's the craziest thing you ever seen in your life. It is massive, massive structure, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so we celebrate Limburg's flight on May 21st. All right, let's
Oh,
see.
what's this, Joseph? Joseph says, when I was a boy, I was able to fly in the Tin Goose, a Ford tri-motor of the same design as the Spirit of St. Louis. My grandmother was the only one who would go up with me. Uh, Apparently, I guess everybody was scared.
Well, it was the motor. They have cylinders around this motor,
Uh-huh.
and that's what spins has enough power to spin those wooden props. Now, those the wood that those props are made out of, there was an island in the Keys called London Vitae Island in the Keys that grew the trees that the wood was strong enough that they made propellers out of it
Mhm.
because you just didn't have a normal piece of
Yeah, you
wood
couldn't just cut
propeller.
down a pine tree and make you some propellers, you know?
Yeah, that might be good for paddles and stuff that would break, but not a propeller on an aircraft. I mean, that's what they had back then. It was all made laid that was all milled out of wood, and it was very specific. But that's Lindbergh next to his plane, and that's in New York where he took off from, and he made it. So good for him. Then of course they went on. He became famous, um, and then. Uh, of course, we covered the Lindbergh baby a long time ago. Now,
Yeah,
this in 19, so this kind of gets into a dark section, but this, I didn't mean to be so dark today. This is, it's supposed to be fun. So, why don't you give us some weird history, Tony? You give us something weird before we get into this last part about the assassination
okay.
of Indian Prime Minister.
Well, on this day in 1994, this is not a super far back event, but the Flavor Saver tomato was debuted. Um, it's in a weird crossover between pop culture, grocery shopping, science fiction. The world's first genetically modified food product hit U.S. grocery store shelves on May 21st, 1994. The Flavor Saver tomato was gene edited to delay its ripening so it wouldn't get all mushy and like tomatoes do.
Hmm.
It created a massive media frenzy and intense public debate about quote frankenfoods. I'm sure you've heard that term.
Hmm.
um, and it commanded high placement on evening talk shows. And well, the Frankenfood Flavor Saver tomato costs an astronomical 70 cents more per pound than regular tomatoes.
Well, wasn't that
That's why Whole Foods is so expensive.
Isn't that the oblong looking tomato that was genetically designed? It's easier to pick. Machines can pick it
I believe it is. The
because
Flavor
I
Saver. It
because
was, but it was gene edited to last longer than regular tomatoes. Now, and I'm sure they did some editing for pickability and all of that.
yeah, because during our rite of passage, my parents would send up the kids. I have hundreds of cousins. Okay, in the state of
I got a
Florida.
very large family myself, so I know
Yeah,
what you're
I
talking
mean,
about.
I have hundreds of cousins, and part of our rite of passage that our family generational would do was send the kids up to work the farm. And my grandfather was a horticulturist, and he owned citrus and owned a lot. He had a packing plant, citrus, the whole nine yards. But he had a farm in North Florida and on Kingsley Lake. So we would live at the lake. It was right across the lake from Um, from Oh, it's in Stark, Florida. So that is Camp Blanding, right? And during World War II, Camp Blanding was the most populated city in the state of Florida was Camp Blanding, right? It
Right,
trained a lot of people, and it's right at the north side of the Ocala National Forest. So there's this big
right,
ass
right.
lake called Kingsley Lake, and so my grandfather had a little shop and go gas station store that we all had to work at. So we're all like 13, 14 years old, right?
Uh-huh.
12 to 14, this is where you went off for summer to work at the shop and go to they didn't have chopped up ice back then. And of course, everybody was going fishing on the lake, so they pull up with their boat. You fill the boat up with gas, and then they needed ice. They used to sell ice by the block, so you had a
Yep.
block ice house. Remember the ice house that were
Yep.
blocks?
Yep.
So then some asshole decided that he wanted chopped ice. He wanted cracked ice in bags. So my grandfather had the machine that you put the block of ice up into the top of it,
Mhm. And
and
it would break it up.
you had this freaking grinder that would grind up the ice and then put it in a bag, and then you would tie it off. Okay, the only good part was you got to work in the ice house, which was 30 something degrees, and it was 110
Mhm.
degrees outside. So
Yep.
nobody complained about that. I still have all my fingers and hands and didn't get them chopped off in that machine, you know?
Right.
That
Right.
holy cow, that was a dangerous fricking looking machine, let me tell you.
Right.
And
I'm
then
sure.
and then we had to work at his 5-acre garden, which was all tomatoes, ripe vine tomatoes. So we figured we'd be out there during the day in the morning picking tomatoes. Oh no. You're up like at dark 30, you're out in the
Mhm.
field and you're dusting the plants to keep all the bugs off of it,
Yep.
right?
Keep the bugs and worms away from them.
And then you fertilize the plants and you have to weed. I still Tony, I've remember I redid my backyard. I was sending pictures to James. I still like last night we were working on the house on the frame on the not framing the siding, right? But replacing the wood siding on the house,
Yeah.
and because it's not pretty enough, it just wasn't done right. And so, and then I'm done. I'm sweaty. I'm hot. I'm like upset, and I still go past my garden and pick all the weeds before I even hit the back door. Right?
Uh-huh.
I'm still weeding. That's what it teaches you at 13. You're still just because if you don't get them when they're little, you got to take a shovel back there when they get big.
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah.
you get them
Weeds
while they're
are
little. Yeah,
Yeah, weeds are a horrible thing, if you want a nice garden and you want it to produce properly.
yeah, because
I
it's
I have a bucket garden. My plants are in 5-gallon buckets,
oh
so it
yeah,
makes things a whole lot easier.
yeah,
I've got
but
3 varieties of tomatoes going on, several varieties of peppers and other things going on,
right.
but all of them are in 5-gallon buckets, so it makes things a whole lot easier.
And at the end of the summer, he would give you at the end of the summer, working in the hot sun all summer long, as every farmer can tell you, or every grandson of a farmer can tell you. At the end of that summer with granddad, driving to the dump to take the rotten vegetables that he didn't sell, at the farmer's market, taking all this whatever dump from the house and everything, because you had to drive to a dump. You just didn't put it out for garbage pickup. There was no
Right.
garbage pickup, right? So people would take turns, and you'd go get the ladies' dump or trash from next door, and they didn't have plastic bags back then. You took their trash can and brought it back in the truck. Um,
Mhm.
he give you a crisp $20 bill at the end of the summer.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah,
Woohoo.
20, and
But,
you'd go.
but as kids back then, though, we thought that was something right there, getting
Yeah, it was
$20
something.
bill,
Yeah, it was something.
Um,
I was selling corner cupboards, and I said, "Mom, you made me work all summer long." Of course, they wanted me out of their hair for the whole summer, right?
oh,
You
yeah.
made me work all summer long where I could have been doing my corner cupboard paper route that I was making like 17 bucks a week working,
Uh-huh.
and you had me getting a $20 bill. Don't ever do that. I ain't going back. I ain't going back up to North Florida. Forget it. I ain't doing it. I was selling
Right, right.
I was selling corner cupboards, man. That was like you got a nickel a paper. So,
Right, right, right,
and
yeah.
that was back during when before copy machines. So you had these typing pools. And what do they take a break from typing and they want to read a corner cupboard newspaper, which is a
Mhm.
smaller newspaper from the regular paper. So it has all the local news, like who's getting married, who got divorced, the
Right.
pictures from the baseball team, all that kind of stuff. What parties were locally, and pictures of the rich and famous of your little town, which was nothing, right? No big deal. But anyway, that was the corner cupboard, and they should bring those back because we lose contacts of
Mhm.
our local communities because there's
I
no
think,
little community paper.
yeah, print media is going away anyway. Is disappearing very fast. I used to actually deliver papers for a local paper here where I live called the Daily Sun, and you know I had the largest route in the entire reading area of
Yeah,
the Daily Sun, and you know, it doesn't exist anymore. The Daily Sun went out of business. It doesn't exist, and most of our local print media has either switched to online or just went out of business completely. I think print media needs to come back, and those delivery routes were a very good learning experience for kids who could get those routes and go out and deliver the paper and make them some money. It's a good work experience opportunity.
Yeah. They
So I mean,
I mean, our local paper, Orlando Sentinel, it was just flip
I
and print.
actually I
It was
actually used to sell the Orlando Sentinel when I was down there in
yeah,
Florida.
yeah, I mean, it got to be where, the police or whatever would
Yeah,
send in an article, they would just flip it onto their copy machine and put it in the paper. There was no
yeah,
reporting, like, to see if the facts were true. There was no
right, right.
they just printed it. I mean, they would just, whatever, "Okay, that's the story, let's go with it," and
Yeah, I
there was
was
no reporters, no anything.
right. I was one of those irritating paper jocks that was in the middle of the intersections
Oh,
at your major. I know you have seen them.
sure.
I know you probably bought a paper from one of them at some
You
point
bet.
or another.
Yeah.
I was one of those annoying guys, with the papers out there in the middle of the road in the intersection,
Well,
selling those papers, the Orlando Sentinel and others. It wasn't just the Orlando Sentinel,
yeah. Well
but
well,
you
this
know,
next story is about populations that are growing, okay? So, we're going to show you this guy. This is the former prime minister of India, okay?
right?
And, this occurred, on the 21st of May in 1991. This man who was developing India. Now, you have to remember that India, let me see, this is modern day India,
Yeah,
okay?
that's their transportation right there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a real photograph.
Yep.
This isn't a fake photograph. This is real.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's actually real. That they do ride the trains that way,
yep.
and they hang off the sides of it as well, as you can actually see over here on the left of
Hmm.
the picture. They're actually hanging off of the side of that train.
Yeah.
So,
And 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 the reason for that, and the reason for that, um, uh, is that as of as of today, it's 1.5 billion, but the population of India in 2025 was 1.4 billion people in India. And
yeah,
believe me, it's a force, okay? They are investing all over the world. They're trying to betterment themselves, and
yeah,
they're educating themselves, but this is a growing population, and
yeah,
these trains, their transportation within the country is that their transportation models hasn't kept up with the population. Their
right,
population almost doubled within 10 years.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so I'm just showing you different pictures that these train pictures are not staged.
Yeah, have you not
These are
Justin says
real
he can smell that
pictures.
picture. Um,
Hmm.
but, have you not noticed that the poorest and, least developed countries are the ones that procreate the fastest?
Oh, well, I mean, what else are you going to do? Right. And there seems to be a lot of dudes in India. So there's a lot of dudes, but these are all different pictures, guys. I'm not lying when I say that I'm not saying that you as a tourist are going to go on this. These are religious holidays. These are religious holidays where a lot of the city workers are trying to make it back to their home villages, to see their parents, to see their relatives. But that's why the transportation is so overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed during religious
Yeah, if you're
holidays.
riding on a train like that, and you're trying to get to your home village, you
Hmm.
had better really know the route of that train, which stop is yours, and etcetera.
right.
I mean, because
'Cause
you're not getting off of that train quickly.
right.
I mean,
And
unless you're one of the ones hanging off at the side, then you can just jump down or whatever. But
right. And I'm not saying that you and Mrs. Lipbaum wanna go over to visit India and tour it. You're not gonna be in this type of situation like this, okay? Your travel agent is going you now you may see a station like this and it'd be pretty crowded, but believe me, this is during religious holidays when they have to go. But I wanna talk about transportation in India. Right, the trans you see the different gauge of track on that that's for the heaviest mode of transportation, that track there.
uh-huh.
Now, I I grew up in Florida, so if you were going to develop a piece of property and you needed to cut down all the lumber, and you didn't have enough horses and enough back in the old days, you didn't have any cars. You just didn't have enough donkeys and horses to pull the logs out, so that you had to build a railroad but you didn't have to build one this sophisticated. You put in a lighter gauge railroad
Right, right.
into the land, and you would pull the trees up onto the cars and then move them on a smaller gauge railroad. And we've all seen different gauges. You had Disney World that has a different gauge railroad. You have the little guys that put up a railroad in their backyard and they take kids for rides in it. That's a smaller gauge railroad. Okay, in India, they control the 1.5 billion people by the different gauge transportation of railroads. So they don't allow the masses to go from one end of the country to the next. They control the movement of the masses. Okay, that's what I'm
Right,
trying to
right.
say. And they do it by trains, believe it or not. They do it by different gauge trains and how many people can ride, how big the trains can be that can ride on this stuff, all right? Because
Right.
they don't want this horde of people to come into Mumbai and take it over. Okay,
Yeah.
they want to control it, and that's how they control it. Well, anyway, so this guy, he's prime minister of India, and he's visiting a very big tourist area in 1991, and he's a very powerful person. What I'm trying to tell you is that the United States is very powerful too, okay? And
Mhm.
we're very diversified. India is very diversified, okay? And this guy was very powerful. And he's in the tourist spot. This is a major tourist area of India. He's going
Mhm.
there on a religious pilgrim uh, to a town called Tamil Nadu or whatever. But this is where what you'll see in Tamil, right? You'll see art and
Yeah. Well, when
you'll
you
see
sent me that rundown and I started
mhm.
seeing some of those names of places, I my first thought was, I wanna see Skillet pronounce these.
Yeah. Yeah, so Nadu, right? Well, Tim Skillet tries the best he can, but I'm exposing you guys. I'm exposing you to some basic population stuff. So anyway, this guy's in this very big tourist area of India. I'll show you where that is. This is the part of India that it's in. Um, so it would be like like going to Washington D.C. or it's in the southern tip of Sri Lanka down into the Sri Lanka area
Sri
of
Lanka, you
India,
mean?
Sri Lanka, yeah, of India. But this is the area that it is, right on the coastal side, right down at the bottom there of
Right,
India,
right.
and these are all the different provinces of India. That you have all different kind of religious sects in there. You have all different kind of power structures in there. Now the
Oh,
country is
yeah.
becoming industrialized, and so it's a great opportunity for a lot of things to happen. Now I'll tell you a story. The big boss I worked for, he had factories all over the world, and he was an expert in China, putting in manufacturing facilities in China. Of course, you don't own them; you only own 49% of whatever you're manufacturing in China. But he was one of the first ones to go to Shanghai and start a factory that the Chinese owned, making his products that he would import into the United States. Okay, he was one of the
Right.
first. He was one of the first. So he had plants in Germany, he had plants in Ireland, he had plants all over the world, and he wanted to put a plant in India. So he
Right?
traveled to Russia to put a plant in Russia. They got news that they were going to kidnap all the American businessmen on this trip. So they had to put him in a small prison in Russia. So he didn't build a factory in Russia because he never knew if he had to go to prison again in Russia. It was a big story, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
he gets off the plane in India, goes down, meets his contacts to go look at some sites. The smell killed him. I mean, it was overwhelming, the smell, right?
Uh-huh.
He turned around, got his bag, went back to the airport, got the next flight out of India. Said, "No India, because I can't go there." He's like, "There's no way
Right.
I'm going to India to put this factory together." Okay, it was impossible. So I'm just telling you that different parts of the world, there's some downsides. But what happened to this poor guy was he was visiting this tourist area, and this is the last picture of this guy alive. And what I'm saying is that as these countries develop, he's on a religious passage in on May 21st, 91, um, and a suicide bomber came up. This young lady with the little ponytails right there, the pigtails,
Yep.
she's 22 years old. Her name is Kalavani, and she a member of the Sri Lanka Tamil separatist rebel organization called the Liberation Tigers of Tamil.
Right,
And
right.
she goes she goes to the ground where he's at and to touch his feet. That's, I guess, some sort of um, whatever. He's giving passage to his feet. In other words, I guess that's a gesture of homage, right?
Yeah, it's honoring that person. If you recall in the Bible, many times, someone would reach out to they would go down and they would reach out to touch his feet or the hem of his robes or whatever,
Right,
and that was a supplication, kind of uh, uh, a reverence, if
right.
as it
And
were.
and he had lots of supporters. So this was going to be a campaign rally, attack at the campaign rally. He reached the campaign rally at this lower part of India at approximately 10:10 p.m. He exited his motorcade. He began walking toward the dais where he was to deliver a speech. Along the way, he was masked by many well wishers, Indian National Congress workers, school children, hordes of people. And the
Right,
assassin, Kalavani, g- approached him, greeted him, and then she bent down to touch his feet at approximately 10:20 p.m. and detonated an RDX explosive belt tucked up below her dress. She died, of course. She blew herself up. He died, and 14 others were killed, following by 43 others who were gravely injured. The
yeah,
assassination was caught on film by a local photographer who was also a conspirator and who also died in the blast. So not only was he filming it, he was a conspirator and he died in the blast.
right, right,
The 15 people that died was a police constable, a Congress leader, an inspector, a superintendent, a police superintendent,
right,
Congress workers with their daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, um, the attendees, former members of the Tamu Legislation Council, a 17-year-old college student, personal security for him, police, a black cat commando, whatever that is, and then of course a conspirator. Out of all of them, there were 59 casualties in total. So what I'm saying is, as we have rallies and as you put together rallies in the United States and you run for office, don't be afraid to run for office. But you also have to have personal protection. You have to also protect yourself at all times because
right.
this is a
As
22-year-old girl that comes up and blows up 59 casualties.
Right,
Okay.
as a public figure of any kind, if you are a public figure, you have to understand that you are the bad guy in somebody's story, and therefore you have a target on your back. So you have to constantly have your head on a swivel. You've got to have some sort of security, etc. You have to be aware, and realize that you are the bad guy in somebody's story, you know, and no matter who you are, no matter how good you might be, whatever, you know, but you are, everybody is, whether you're a public figure or not, the bad guy in somebody's story,
Yeah.
so
And let me just leave you with one more photograph today, because I'm not kidding you. You know, this is the Indians train system. This is a modern day picture. Look at the
it
guy's
is.
backpack. You know, look at his backpack. So this isn't old. This isn't old timey. This isn't a fake news. This is real.
Oh
And
yeah, no, this is every day in India.
yeah.
Every day. You know, so I mean, it's
And this is why we pay our taxes, so we don't have to live like this.
right,
We want infrastructure. We want
right,
railroads. We don't, if you just cram everybody into a city and not build the infrastructure and have a little bit of planning around it, you're going to end
right,
up like this, and
right,
nobody wants this.
right. Hey, the Indians don't even want this. They don't like having to do that, but it's a necessity of life in their region.
Yeah.
So they do what they have to do. You know,
Well, I
and
had so I
and
had
go ahead.
So I had to take dad to, right now I've got a lot of personal family stuff I'm taking care of, and I had to take old dad to the doctor yesterday. Right, can't even
Mhm.
remember what he had for breakfast that morning. Can't remember what he had for dinner the night before. But the problem I got now is I got a 93-year-old guy who weighs 260 pounds, who's 94. That's a lot. And I weigh 249, right? And we're, basically the same size. So I've got to lose some weight, so I'm working on that. But I'm 6'2", he's 6'5", but you're not 6'5" anymore when you're 94. 94 years old. But he had a problem like feeling anything on his legs. Like they had to do how they tap you with that vibrating.
Neuropathy. He
Yeah.
has neuropathy.
So I'm going to have to take over my portable. He lives in a tower. My mom and dad, she's blind now. My mom's blind, but that was because of chemo. Those are all side effects of chemo. Believe me,
Oh yeah.
chemo tears you up. It saves your life, but in the end, it tears you up.
Well,
And
chemo. A lot of people don't realize, but chemo is actually a poison to the human body.
yeah,
And obviously, it's poison to cancer.
yeah.
So
Yeah. So anyway, so poor mom. So anyway, but her legs don't look that good either. So
right.
I got to take my portable bicycle pedals that I use
Mhm.
after my knee surgery over there. I got two sets of them
Yeah,
because
I've got one of those too.
I had them in two different places. Let me tell you guys, if you can't get out and ride a bike, but you're having trouble with mobility, you may fall over. That once you crack your hip, you're done, right? Break your hip. uh, Get one of these things. You sit in a chair and you pedal the bicycle pedals. It's awesome. I do it all the
Mhm.
time. It not only keeps circulation in your legs, it also tightens up your stomach. I
Yeah,
mean,
my only issue with mine is the sucker won't stay still. I'm pedaling, 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 and it's moving all over the place, and I'm trying to keep up with it.
yeah.
It won't stay
Well,
still. The feet won't grip.
mine are pretty good. I lucked out. My only problem is it's a hand crank screw that
The
puts the
the, the
pressure.
tension, yeah,
Yeah, and if you touch anywhere near that metal hub, you will burn your fingers, man, because it is all friction. It is
yeah,
friction, and
that friction will get hot.
yeah, and
Yes.
you're like, don't touch any of that once you get going with it, because after 10 minutes,
Mhm.
man, it's glowing. It's glowing. But anyway,
Oh yeah.
I gotta take that over. He won't do it if I just drop it off, so I gotta
Right.
go
Yeah.
sit it in
Make
front
him
of
do it.
him and make him do it because I
Right,
don't
right.
I can't I don't want him whittling on my dad at 93,
Right,
94
right.
years old. I mean,
Right, right.
can you imagine being the doctor that says, "Hey, I got to cut off part of your leg."
Right,
You don't
right.
want to do that,
Right. Hey,
So,
real quick, to kind of lighten things up with the
yeah,
historical events and things. On May 21st in 1950,
right?
a highly unusual meteorological, it's hard to say that word, phenomenon occurred when a powerful tornado swept across a chicken coop in Linslade, England. The intense vortex caused a localized sudden drop in atmospheric pressure so severe that it literally plucked the feathers clean off of the chickens in the chicken coop. Um,
Holy
and
crap, a bunch of naked chickens running around. Can you imagine?
incredibly, the naked birds actually survived the ordeal. That was the Great Chicken Defeathering of 1950 in
Crazy.
Linslade, England.
They have you ever seen when these parrots lose their feathers and they are just
When they
skin
molt, yeah,
when they're
they go
just they're
sad,
just they are just they're the funniest looking, and you always have one that has an attitude, he starts like
right?
getting down with himself, like woo,
Yeah.
like getting down. That's funny. I love those videos. All right, well anyway, I got stuff to do. I got to go over and do that with dad to get his legs going. He doesn't know what's going on. I just don't want him to whittle. No whittling. No whittling.
Right, right,
And then I did get Ozempic, right? My
right,
Ozempic
right, right.
prescription came in. I told you that it was $1,400, right?
Yeah,
Because my
yeah.
insurance didn't pay for it.
It's insane the prices of
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So I'm not paying that, right? I ain't
Yeah,
gonna pay that, right? So I got a
right,
coupon from the manufacturer. I got a coupon for it, and it's
right,
25
right.
bucks, $25.
Yeah,
That I can afford. That I can
right,
afford.
right. I
So
mean,
now I
for
have to
Christ's
go
sake,
figure it out.
my insulin. I have to have two different insulins right here. My insulin. The reason I get it in these vials and I have to use syringes. The
Mhm,
reason is because of that price. See, I could get it in a pen like Ozempic.
mhm.
I could get it, but it's the price is very similar to Ozempic. For a month's supply, it's about $1,200.
Who can afford nobody can afford that.
That's the
I don't
whole reason that I get it in these vials and use syringes.
Yeah.
I would love to just use one of those little pens and be done with it.
Well, this thing, you have to set the dosage of whatever
Right.
they suggested. Then you put the needle on it, and then you have 6 different fat areas of your body, right? You gotta
Yeah,
use
yeah, you can take it pretty much anywhere that you have fat.
right.
It's
And you hold the pen down for 8 to 10 seconds. Hold it down while it's doing it, and then you look at the pen, and it goes to 0. So it lets you
yep.
know that it's
Yeah, you'll hear the ticking as it's. I used to be on Ozempic. Now I am actually on the pill version.
right.
You know, which I prefer the pill version. I don't like pills, but I prefer the pill version over the pen. But when I was using the pen, you'll hear the clicking. You stick yourself with it and push that button, and you'll hear it tick 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 tick. When the clicking stops, it's at 0, and then you hold it for a few seconds longer, and then you're done.
Then you're done. Now, you take the needle off, right? Okay, dispose of the needle properly. And then but it has more in there for the next time you use it. So
Yes,
it's just one pen. That's
yeah,
what's
but
throwing
you
me
have
off.
multiple doses. You have
But you have
multiple
multiple
doses.
doses in there, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you just set your dose every time, and you
and you only
stick it
prime
in.
it and you only prime it once because you don't want
Right
to
when you
waste
when
any of
you
that
first
stuff.
yeah when you first use the pen, you have to prime it. Make sure that it's flowing properly,
Okay.
and then after that, you're good to go. Just set your dose, stick it, click 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 click. When the clicking stops, then you're at 0. Hold it for, they say, roughly about 6 seconds, and then pull it out, needle off, and go on about your business.
Yeah. Well, we've just educated all 6 of our viewers this morning on how to do a Ozempic pen, and that you can get a coupon for, $25 instead of $1,400. That's
The Ozempic,
crazy.
the company that makes Ozempic actually has a patient assistance program. That's how I was getting it. This is before I had my insurance.
Mhm.
I didn't have any type of coverage. They have a patient assistance program where you can actually get it for free, but you have to go through your doctor to get that patient assistance program. And what they'll do is they'll send the Ozempic to your doctor's office, and then your doctor will call you, hey, your Ozempic's here. You go pick it up. It's 6 months worth at a time, and you follow your prescription however you're supposed to take it. You
Yeah,
know,
well, I gotta tell you, people are on Ozempic, you can't get it. It took 3
oh no,
months.
no,
It took
oh no.
3 months to get Ozempics, 3 months
Yeah,
for me to get it in.
the reason I'm no longer on it and I'm on the pill version is because my pharmacies, none of them around here can actually get Ozempic or any of the versions, Wegovy or any of the
Mhm,
other versions. They can't get it.
right.
So, my doctor said, "Well, let's put you on the pill." And I know all this stuff has side effects and it's killing me and everything, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can come off of this stuff and
I just
everything.
don't I don't wanna stroke out. I have strokes are in my family.
Right, right.
I told you about my brother-in-law in California. Yeah, he just had another stroke. So it's just really sad, and it's sad if you
And
don't
strokes
have.
are a horrible thing. They do so much damage to the brain and the
Yeah.
human body.
But
It's horrible.
folks, if you learn anything from any of these shows is you have to have a DNR or a plan of who's going to manage your life when you're
A living
incapable.
will, a DNR,
Uh,
something,
it
to let people know what you want if you're incapable of
right.
conveying that to your doctor.
Yeah, because when you're in certain states, it can take all your money because attorneys now represent you. And you're going to have an attorney that you don't know represent you in a state that, because you didn't have a DNR in place or some sort of
A living
a
will,
living
whatever.
will. And then all of a sudden the attorneys and the judge see they're all involved now. Now this poor guy sitting in a bed in a vegetated state, he has 2 attorneys because the judge and the attorney had a disagreement, so the judge assigned another attorney to it. Oh, so then you get 2 attorneys and the judge and the judicial system of California, and
Right.
you've got this bag of money sitting in your savings account, right?
Hmm.
Well, guess who gets dibs on that to pay for attorney fees?
All those attorneys have.
All those attorneys while you're sitting in a coma.
Hmm.
I'm t
Yeah, and then when that money's gone, you're SOL.
yeah, good luck. Do they do they literally throw you out the window or do they roll you out the front door? I'm not really sure how the end comes, but I know it's gonna be one of those 2 that's gonna happen. And you know what? Okay, we've all been to California. We've all tried to go through this system, right? And we've all been told any further step forward toward us and you will all be arrested. People
Mhm.
from Wyoming, people from Pennsylvania, people from Florida. If you disrupt us in any way, shape, or form, we will arrest you. That's what the
Mhm.
family members get.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Good luck with that. What a great state.
And here a lot of people think that if you run out of the money, they just pull the plug and whatever. What actually happens in most states, and this actually does happen in California as well. When you run out of the money, either the family has to take over, and start paying, or that person is going to be made a ward of the state, which means the state pays for it. So what happens? They get pulled out of the good hospital, and they
Of
get
course.
and they get sent to a facility, and the facility may or may not take proper care of the person or
It
whatever, but
that's
they
exactly what
still get
happened. That's
paid.
exactly what happened in this case. He went to a group home, which is a private residency that's taking money from an NGO to take care of the patients,
And that's
right?
what Maryland does.
Yeah,
she,
in a
she
private
works.
home. In a
Yeah,
home.
she works in a group home for developmentally disabled people, and they're all most of them are wards of the state.
Right.
And so she gets paid basically by the state. Um, she works for a company, but she gets paid by the state and under state regulations and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Taking care of these people, and it is in a regular house. It's a regular house. Same as you or I might live in or whatever. Four. She has four residents per house. So
Well, I'll make sure to be available on Thursday mornings, okay, and to get this through until whatever. And I appreciate it, guys. I just have been extremely busy. I want to apologize to you, Big Tony, for last Thursday.
right,
It
I
was,
showed up and nobody was there.
I know. I want to apologize to you because you even came to the show to try to help save it. And I understand it's filler. It's a filler show for everybody, but I can't do the afternoon news anymore because this is what happened. This is what was frustrating, to tell you the truth. I
Right.
did the research on this and then did the show. Then I have to do research for a news program in the afternoon, right?
Hmm.
So whatever I'm wearing p- doing my renovation on my house, I have to then change
Hmm.
into something normal. Then after I'm done, I change back into my sweaty ass work clothes, right? To do
Hmm.
the rest of my work. It's
Right.
something had to go. So unfortunately the podcast had to go. So
Yeah, I do. I don't do a whole lot of stuff. A whole lot of different things. But I do multiple wardrobe changes per day
I know
myself.
it's hard.
Yeah, I
And
come. I come on here, and
and
then I
it's
have.
and it's tough on these things. I still haven't been able to find they don't have the Band-Aid or whatever that goes over this thing at the Walgreens. But this just went up in price. So I used to
Yeah.
pay
Well,
I had a coupon for this sensor and now
go
they want
on.
100 they want
Yeah,
$121
go
90 days for that.
go on the Walmart website.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and you can get these right here.
The
Okay.
round things. Yeah.
Yeah, these are. You can see it a little bit better right there. See
Right.
that circle? That's where your sensor goes.
Right.
Okay. The
And it,
rest of this protects it. It's waterproof. Everything. Your sweat's not gonna bother it. None of that. I wear mine right here on my chest, right here. But you get these. They're not that expensive. This is like the remainder of a package of 100 of them, and it
100.
was like $15.
Okay.
You know,
That's because that's a lot less expensive than these dumbass bandages, that's for
right?
sure.
And
And they're not as big.
these are the clear ones, but you can get flesh tone colored ones. You can get stuff with designs on them if you want to, kind of stand out or whatever.
Well, at
Mhm.
$125 every 40 every what is it? 45 days supply, 120 bucks. I'm going back to just poking my finger, man, and with the meter, it's not a big deal. And it isn't. I mean, the whole time on the
Well,
show, the whole
well,
time on the show, I'm at 108.
right. Well, I literally just took a shot while we were on the show because, right there you can see,
Mhm.
if you're looking at the screen there.
Oh yeah, 219.
Yeah, see, I just had to take a shot while we are on the air. I just did it out of view of the camera,
Damn,
and
damn, Tony.
but here's the thing, you know, um, for people that use their fingertips a lot, typing on a keyboard, playing guitar,
Mhm.
things like that, it becomes extremely the finger picks. They actually destroy the nerves in your fingertips, and it
Well,
becomes extremely painful just to do that.
yeah, well, I
Okay,
mean,
yeah. So that's
what
why
it,
I'm on a
I'm
CGM.
I must be a Zionist because it's painful for me to reach in that back wallet and pull out $121. I,
Well, it is.
I'd rather break my hand than do that,
Yeah,
So forget it.
luckily, my insurance pays for mine 100%.
Yeah,
So
well, mine doesn't. Mine
yeah,
says mine does. My
yeah, my insurance. The only thing I have to pay for out of pocket is these stickers, as far as my CGM goes.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm fighting with a company right now, a software company that I would lease the estimating tool. It's called Exactimate, and they charged me $2,600 on my credit card. And so I said, "Look, I'm, retired. I forgot to turn off the automatic deduct payment. I've been paying that for 22 years, right? Every year." And they're saying, "Oh, Mr. Swope, yeah, you've been a customer of ours 22 years. Great, no problem. We'll credit that right off to you." It's been 21 days, nothing.
And you still haven't got it.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I have to have a campaign, like, I have time for that. I have to now do a campaign against all their board of directors, and they're all up in New Jersey, and I have to go to all my old contacts at all the old insurance companies, and tell them not to
Uh-huh.
use Xactimate, and this is what they did to this poor old adjuster in the field, the ones that you wanna hire to in their pickup truck with their ladders to go
Mhm.
out on a hot day with no AC and go talk to these poor people that a hurricane just destroyed their community, right? And you want that, and you want your estimates all done on Xactimate to send in electronically so you can get the whole thing going. And this is what the vendor is doing to that poor old guy in his pickup truck, right?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Right, right.
So that's the story now. So that's going to be a whole nother podcast right there. It's like, what's the big deal? Why you messing with an old fart like me? I mean, I'm a nobody, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
But it's just,
it's messed up the way, the way they treat people such as yourself, out there in the field. You're basically these companies, that these vendors and etc. They you're nothing. You're nobody. You're an asset. Period.
mhm.
Uh, and you could be replaced is the way they think about it. Oh, they're a dime a dozen. We can replace them at any time.
Oh, yeah.
Or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah, replace people that have to go out and provide customer service to somebody whose roof is no longer on their house anymore, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Good luck.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Be careful what you say. That's what I tell people all the time. Be careful.
Yeah,
We had adjusters shot in, Katrina. We had people assaulted with shovels. We had people shot as they
yeah. That
turned
that doesn't
around.
surprise me
They
actually.
they were shot in the back at going back to their truck, okay,
Yeah.
by homeowners that were
Mhm.
so desperate because you're desperate, okay?
Yeah.
I'm
That's
just
the
letting
thing.
you know.
That
Yeah,
is
good
the
luck
thing,
with that. Yeah.
in that situation, you are literally desperate. You are, you're in a very bad situation, and then you hear, bad news from an adjuster.
You never heard bad news
You
from
just
me.
have that.
I was doing everything I could for those poor people,
Right. You
period.
have that little break that happens in your brain, and hey, it puts a target on that adjuster's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, just send anybody out there to talk to those folks. Go ahead, just send
Right.
anybody. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, send Buck out there, Buck, yeah, let Buck go out there. Big Buck. Yeah, good, Buck, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that,
Right.
and
Right.
they wanna mess with me, you know what I mean? They wanna mess with guys like me that did the right thing all their
Right.
lives.
Right.
Craziest damn
Right.
thing.
It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
did I go off on that? I'm sorry. It's just on my mind. It's just on
Hey,
my mind.
it is what it is. Hey, I wish you luck going up against these guys. I mean, I mean, sometimes it takes, the little guy to get a chip on his shoulder and knock these people down a notch or two.
Oh,
You know
they
what I mean?
they have no idea that I'm the guy that gets in his truck and goes to New Jersey and goes in with the security guard when they start their shift at 6:30 in the morning and have a cup of coffee and shoot the shit and wait for the boss to walk through. I'm that
Uh-huh.
guy, and
Right. Right.
nothing physical is gonna happen, but, your secretary will tell me 10 times that he doesn't have time to see me. I'm gonna sit
Right.
down and have a cup of coffee with the guy.
Right.
I'm
Catch
that
you
guy.
before you get into the office.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I mean, it's like, don't even think like a gatekeeper is gonna keep me out of having a cup of coffee with you? Are you crazy? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Catch
that's
you at
for
the
rookies.
Starbucks before you even get to the building.
Yeah. Those are rookie mistakes right there. I mean, come on. I
So
know.
yeah.
I They just think people give up. I don't give up for $5. I
Well,
never
that's
give
what
up.
they count on. They count on people giving up,
Right.
because if you give up, then, they've won.
Right,
They count on, if they can stretch it out long enough, you'll eventually just give up and say, "Screw it," and, you'll eat that loss, and, that's what they count on. They hope that you will, and they do everything they can to encourage you to give up,
well,
without
here's
actually saying give up,
Well well, it's, the state of Florida doesn't do anything. You have a 3-day right to refuse service, okay, if
Mhm,
contracted, right? So you have so I was well within the 3 days of notifying them in writing
mhm.
and by a call and writing, of canceling the service. So they're already, but $2,600 is a felony. I hate to say that, but
It
it is
is,
a
it is.
felony. Somebody might go to jail because you stole $2,600 from me. That's a lot of
Right,
money.
right,
I don't mean to say that, but it isn't $500. It isn't
right,
$300. It's $2,600.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that's a felony. So,
Yeah,
yeah, and you'll have to pay an attorney. You'll have to hire somebody for $100,000 to keep your ass out of jail because of stupidity. You know what
right,
I'm saying?
right.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, so
Yeah, that onus falls on whoever that the, company deems is actually responsible for that $2,600, and, you hate it for the dude, but hey, you
yeah,
work for the company said you're responsible, so, you know, hey, what can you do?
and it isn't like this company doesn't have a tons of lawsuits. I did a research on them. Tony, they want me to do research on their corporation. Do you know everything I pulled up yesterday on this corporation after 25 days of arguing with them? They're getting sued by everybody and their mother, this company, on
Right.
their tax. They have to file quarterly taxes.
Yeah.
And when you're a public company, you have to spell out everything of what's going on,
Mhm.
including lawsuits, because you have to
Yeah.
report to your shareholders future bad news in the future that might happen, right?
Yep.
So do you think an insurance adjusting an estimating program might have a few lawsuits against
Right, right.
few attorneys that would love witnesses that can talk about all the intricate parts of the adjusting software program? Think
Right,
think that
right.
might be a benefit? And you get to charge for that. If you go to court and you're an
Yep,
expert witness for somebody, you get to charge an hourly rate for that.
yep,
Whether you
yep.
collect it or not might be another lawsuit, but,
Yeah,
you do
right.
get the that's you have no idea how many expert witnesses are never paid. They
Right,
just
right.
they chase you think it's glamorous, but it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
you
better
don't
you better get prepaid before you go up on that sit in that chair?
yeah, you don't wanna be, an expert witness, in a court case. What you wanna be, I actually have a friend who actually is, what you wanna be is a court translator. To translate, for people who don't speak English, etcetera.
Oh, no.
Now,
I my
especially these days when we have so many non-English speaking foreigners in the country, you know, now is the time to be a translator. She makes a killing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
all she does, she goes and sits at the court, and when a case comes up where the person doesn't speak English, then she's called up and she clocks in right at that moment. She clocks in and starts reaping the rewards. She makes good money.
Yeah,
Um,
my one of my duties was I'd have to attend insurance court cases and just report on how the trial was going for the insurance company so
uh-huh.
they would know if their attorneys were telling them the truth of how the trial was going. So I was always that guy. Both sides hated me because they didn't want me to write nothing, right? But I would sit back
Mhm.
there and just say, you know, this witness was credible, this had weight, it seemed to sway the jury a little bit. This didn't sway the jury much. I couldn't see any agreement, faces, expressions, and stuff like that. You just read people. Now, there are people that do that. They have college educations on personality. They can read a person. I'm not that guy. I'm just the average guy and
Mhm.
they kinda like my reports because I'm just being average, of
Right.
what's going on.
Right. Even, I mean, even give your opinion on, the testimony or whatever. Did that sway you? I
Right.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
was it effective to you as well as looking at the jury and whatever,
Yeah.
seeing how they're reacting. But, well, I mean, to be honest, so and so's testimony actually was convincing to me.
Right.
I mean,
And that tells parties if they need to settle before it goes to the jury, okay? So, yeah, that's all good. I'm not saying I sway anything. I'm just giving a honest
right.
Joe Schmo opinion of that, and I'm licensed, you know what I mean? So, but I'm
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. They have psychiatrists for that. But I gotta tell you, man, that whole industry, I bet you if you get an opinion from a psychiatrist on the personality of this and that, you probably at the end of their report can't understand a freaking thing the guy said, You're probably like, "Just give me somebody that tells me what the hell's going on," and that's probably was a discussion before they'd hire me, you know? So,
Right, right. Yeah,
just just give me get somebody average in there for God's sakes. I'm as average as they come, right? So there you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Anyway,
Maryland's actual degrees are in psychology, so,
see, yeah,
uh,
see, obviously, right? See, that's what, and they would go, "Who the hell are you? Nobody. I'm just sitting in the back, man. I'm a nobody." You know.
yeah,
But I, but I, but I,
all of my
but
multiple degrees are in some form of religious studies,
no,
so
mine was I got to go to the court cases while they were doing jury selection, which normally
right,
you can't do, but if you're part of their team, you get to go in for jury selection. And I got to tell you,
right,
that's the most interesting part of any trial is jury selection because the average person that gets called up for jury selection, you have to defend your life because you're going to get a lot of questions about your life and what
mhm,
background you have and what have you done with your life. And it's really honestly it's brutal
yeah,
because if you haven't done anything, you're in a room full of like 50 people.
uh-huh,
They bring in like 30 at a time, and they give you a number, and then the attorneys can ask a number, say, okay, number 22, what about this? What about that? What about number 20,
mhm,
number 37? What about this? What about that?
right,
And if you haven't done anything your whole life, it's going to be very quickly uh, found out. I mean, you're going to be like, I mean, and all of a sudden you're like, this guy owned a company, he had 350 employees, he's been in multiple cases, he's been involved in multiple cases. This guy over here, he's an elevator operator. Not that there's anything wrong with elevator operator, but that is a job, right? And he's worked all his life and he's provided for his family and his kids went to college. Great, that's great. Then you got guys that just say, I live in my mother's basement and I'm 54 years old.
yep,
No
yep,
job, nothing, you know? Good
yeah,
luck
yeah,
with that.
plays World of Warcraft all day.
Yeah. Yeah. But the only time you have to defend your life is that jury duty, which is
Mhm.
fascinating. I suggest everybody not fight jury duty if it's available. I want to get on grand jury duty. I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna research how to get on to grand jury duty because I figure right now being
I've
retired.
always I've always assumed that grand juries were pulled from the same pool as regular juries.
I don't
I've
believe it
never
is.
done either one, jury or grand jury.
I
Um,
I don't think it is. I think I'm gonna research that and that, but you can't report about it. You can't podcast anything in a
oh
jury.
no, 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 no.
None.
All that has to be.
It is a
Uh,
magic secret thing. It's
yep.
the jury when you get judged by your peers, that's part of our government that this country is based on. Whatever happens in that jury room stays in the jury room, meaning
Right.
of
Right.
the discussions and decisions that are made in there. And it's magical. And you could have E.F. Bailey as your attorney, pay him $1 million to defend you, and he'll lose bigger and shit, and you don't know
Yeah.
why. You have no idea.
Yeah, 'cause you never can tell what's going on in that jury room as far as conversation,
Mhm.
how they're reacting to the actual evidence because they're able to call for, certain evidence from within the trial, etc.
Mhm.
and actually examine it up close and personal.
Yep.
And their reactions to the up close and personal examination may be different than their reaction in the courtroom.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen.
And this Mangione trial is going to be one of the most interesting one because each side is trying to present evidence and each side is trying to get that evidence removed from the trial, like the guy's backpack. That
Right.
motion, the prosecution may interview the family of the victim and they'll want that judge pulled off the case because he's not giving them a fair shake
Right. Right.
if they make not allow that backpack into evidence. Okay, you can do that. Is you're if you're the victim, which that guy's family was the victim. Okay, right? And if they feel that the judge in the case is one-sided and slanting you, you can go and say, I really feel this. And
Right.
do a deposition and do an affidavit, and they can make a motion to pull that damn judge off the case because
Right.
it's too one-sided. And you know what? A lot of times the judge will pull himself off, him
Yeah.
or herself,
Recuse himself from the case.
recuse them
Yeah.
from the case because they're saying, well, they don't think it's fair. So no matter what happens, it's going
Yeah.
to go
Well,
to an appeal.
these days, especially in so-called high-profile cases, such as the Luigi Mangione thing, um, I personally don't think it. For example, the jury, I personally don't think it is possible to get a impartial jury, a non-biased jury, because of social media and etc. As soon as event like that happens, the court of public opinion is already being swayed this way and that on social media.
Right.
And because it is so prevalent, you cannot go out into public and not be on somebody's camera, whether they know it or not. You're
Yeah,
on somebody's camera.
look
And
at the shooter and look at the shooter for the correspondence dinner at the Hilton.
right,
How is that guy going to say it wasn't him? It wasn't
right,
me.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
innocent. Innocent of what? You know, you're on.
Right, right.
You got all this evidence. Look at all the videos already on TV. A
And it's
jury and
always alleged, even though you have video showing the exact person doing the exact thing that he's
right,
charged with. You always the media, including us, has to always say it's alleged.
right,
Even though we know he did it.
right.
But
But but but but
you
but
know,
but as you do have venues of motions in a case, if you felt you're being victimized, um, like the guy who got shot by the guy, okay? If he feels like his rights are being trampled because a jury in Washington, D.C. is going to let this guy walk. And
right,
even President Trump could probably sue and say, here's my affidavit. I don't think this is a fair trial. You're not taking in all the evidence. It's slanted against us.
yeah, he
And
could do an amicus brief and
yeah, and
sway the trial that way.
yeah, and that's what's gonna happen with this backpack because the guy had a backpack at the McDonald's that they're not gonna let into everything in the backpack, they're not gonna let into evidence or something
Right,
like
right,
that. So it's like
right, yeah. But
so
yeah, I mean, think about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
the
That was so huge and still is so huge in social media that it is actually impossible. And I don't care where they move the trial to, if they do. I don't think they are going to. I've been kind of following it, but if they were, I don't care where you move it in the country. See, the internet and social media is worldwide, and
worldwide.
every single person has some sort of opinion on that case. You cannot get an impartial jury at all. It's impossible.
That
And you guarantee that the judges and the attorneys on both sides, before even taking the case, have heard and have formed an opinion ahead of time, and so even they're not impartial.
exactly. I don't even know how they could do that. And the sad thing is we know more about these 2 kids in San Diego that ran up on a mosque than the shooter in Butler. and the guy from Charlie's assassination in Utah. We're,
Right, Tyler
we're gonna know
Robinson.
we're gonna know more about these two kids than we already know more about these two kids and their social media and who they were influenced by. Oh, funny how that is. It's influenced by. Oh, yeah. Like,
Oh yeah, they were trying to emulate the New Zealand shooter that what was it, 51 people that he killed?
yeah,
You know?
not who influenced the Butler shooter or Charlie shooter.
Right.
Yeah, very. Oh, we don't. Or these other people that went into these schools, you're right, with their manifesto. Remember the one that they weren't even going to release the manifesto
Mhm.
information to, and she
Yeah.
turned out to be whatever. I'm just saying. It's not a fair ball game anymore. It's like
Right, it's not. It's
and
not. I
it's
mean,
gonna take one event. This might be the event in San Diego that's gonna uh, tip off the summer of love again, and it's all there.
I
We
I have
see it
been
all right in front
predicting
of us.
I have been predicting that we're in for another summer of love. I'm just waiting for it to tip off, you know. One of these events that is occurring regularly on a regular basis
Mhm.
is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and we're going to have violence
Yeah,
occur.
it's not gonna be
It's going to be
against me because 'cause I'm an old man, but I'm still pretty spry, right?
right.
It's gonna be against my wife, you know what I mean? Who's just gonna be at a gas station filling up her damn car
Mhm,
or at the grocery store or whatever, being at the wrong
mhm.
place at the wrong time in an intersection. That's who they pick on. They pick
Yep,
on the old and weak, you know?
yep, that's
Yeah.
right. you know
Yeah, and
th-
then
that's
and then and then during the riots, nobody knows who dropped off the bricks. Yeah, everybody knows who dropped off the bricks. Okay, everybody knows. Okay, don't say that you don't know who dropped off the
yeah,
bricks.
it's a matter of proving it though.
Yeah, because bricks
I
are
mean,
3 for $1. Okay, they're not
right,
free. Yeah, bricks aren't free. They're 3 for $1. Okay, that's why
right.
they dropped off cinder blocks at this during the ice riot in LA. They dropped off cinder
Mhm.
blocks. Do you know how heavy a cinder block is? You can't throw that five
Well,
feet. Okay,
they were intending for the rioters to break those apart, which they did, and throw the small pieces.
yeah, because try throwing a cinder block. It's like, come on. So
But yeah, what their intention was for it to be broken up and small pieces be thrown, which is exactly what the rioters did. They broke those cinder blocks and threw the
yeah,
pieces.
all right,
I mean, but the thing is, that is assault on law enforcement.
yeah,
That's a worse crime than assault on a regular person.
right,
You know, so you're literally setting yourself up, to go to prison.
yeah,
You know, I mean, but they don't care. They're all up in their emotions and everything, and and I don't much care for Ben Shapiro, but he did say something significant when he said the facts don't care about your feelings.
right,
You know, your feelings don't matter. It's the reality of everything is what matters.
yep,
And that's something the left is all up in their feelings and their emotions, whereas conservatives are more about the facts. You
that's
know,
right. And it's just that the reason that the Gandhi guy that was assassinated in 91, it just shows you how there are victims and there are people unintentionally they're going to a rally and they're trying to cheer on their side for victory, and 59 people are killed, by a
right,
22-year-old with a suicide bomb on. I mean,
right,
it's
right. Yeah,
crazy,
I mean, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes is, and not, and let me tell you that belt that she was wearing, that explosive belt, there wasn't very much explosive in that belt. It was filled mostly with shrapnel, ball bearings, pieces of glass, nails, things like that. That's what was mostly filled in it. It had an explosive charge that was just to get the stuff moving. It's
Well,
and that's what caused the damage is all that shrapnel that was in that belt. you don't need much explosive. I mean, you could build something like that in your your living room. Take it all of maybe 20 minutes,
Well,
and
well, this 20 minutes is going to go up and get a. I got to get ready for my workers showing up at 12. Go do dad. Go show up for the workers at 12, and we're putting up the rest of the paneling or this or the siding and soffits. It's soffit day today,
oh, don't you
so
love sockets?
I love but I do like playing with I do love playing with the snap line, okay? Okay, the first thing you have to do is attach the snap line and pull all the string out, okay? And then open up the opener and put in the chalk and then reel in the line because there's no
Yeah, you
chalk
want
on the new line, right? So you gotta fill it all up so it gives a nice good snap, you know?
yeah,
If you
good crisp
if
line, yes.
if you fill it up with it all spooled together, you'll only have about a foot of chalk on the line, and the rest of it
Yeah,
won't work. So you
yeah,
gotta,
well, you'll be having what you'll be having to do, I've made that mistake before. What you'll be having to do is every few feet of pulling it out, you have to shake your box.
yeah, shake your box.
And then you pull out a few feet more, shake it up. A few feet more, shake it up.
Well, we
Okay.
we do that when we deep sea fish. When we go out deep sea fishing, we take our line out and we unspool it without a lure because during the course of trolling your lure spins up your line to the point you got to get everything all set, you got to get the line out, get it unraveled and spooled out, and then spool it back in and then attach your lures to it and your
Mhm.
ballyhoo and all that kind of stuff to get it ready to go for trolling if you're going to catch a big fish, because if you catch a record fish it'll snap that line in 2 seconds
Oh,
unless you
yeah.
did all the pre-work of getting it all ready to go.
Yeah.
So you never know when a big one's going to hit, and it can hit you. Usually the biggest fit hits the smallest boat. That's kind of what
Mhm.
happens. And
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. All right. That's a fishing. What a glorious idea. I don't know what that is. I've forgotten how to fish because I'm doing all these goddamn things around the house. Okay, don't cuss. All right, that's 15
Well
points. Let's just see.
well,
This was
when you
supposed to be a good game for doing for 11 points. I got 11 points today. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, well, let's go take care of Papa, and then let's go get another. There's two kind of staple guns. I didn't know that. There's one a Brad gun for doing corners and crown molding. Then there's a staple gun that actually doesn't go through the flashing that your F channels and your C channels that you're putting up for your soffits. Because I hit my stapler for that and went right through the material into the wood, so it
Mhm,
didn't hold up nothing. So now I got to go get a stapler that is wider, that holds that won't go through the material that I'm
mhm.
stapling. Where they write that down in an instruction book?
There are no instructions.
Yeah,
Like,
kids, if you're watching this and you haven't had a job yet, go work construction and learn how to use all these tools the right way. You'll make a fortune.
well, yeah,
The only
that's
way to
one thing
learn
that
is by
people don't
doing it.
realize.
Yeah.
It is hard work. It is hard work, but as long as there are people, there'll always be a job for you.
Yeah.
And they pay really well.
Yeah, they don't
You
know
know?
how to work that equipment. They don't wanna learn how to work that equipment? So, and so yeah, when you see a work truck come up, pat the guy on the back. He had to buy all that shit, all that stuff on
Mhm.
his truck, you
Yeah,
know?
all that equipment costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of those tools. I can't use them because, well, my disability. But I still own them. And anytime, like say my dad comes and, hey, I need such and such tool. Sure, I got it. Here you go. I mean,
Well, I'm hoping I get invited up to Canada. They're a friend of ours. They lease land in Canada every year, and the house needs some work. So I told him, I said, just call me. I'm retired now. I'll put all my tools in the truck and head up to 10,000 St. Lawrence River, 10,000 islands or
right,
a
right,
thousand islands, and
yeah,
they live on an island. So
right, right,
yeah, you ever seen those pictures where you take your grocery stores and it goes on a ramp up the hill to the house
right, right, yeah,
from the boat? So they everything is by boat.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to bring your supplies in by boat. You have to do everything by boat. Yeah.
yeah, so I haven't been up there because all he talks about is when he opens up the house for the summer, it's rats. Get all the mice and the
Mhm.
rats out of the property. And me and rats we have an understanding. They're over there and I'm here. I
Well,
don't
now
like
think about it.
rats.
Think about it. Rats are the spreaders of hantavirus. Rats are the animals who were responsible for the Black Plague.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, yeah, there are reason for you to maybe be a little nervous when you come in contact or potentially come in contact with rats.
Well,
You
hopefully the
know.
trade-off of being up there on the water will re-enthuse me for getting out and get back on the water again. Because that was living in Fort Lauderdale for 9 years. That is the Venice of Florida. It's called the Venice of Florida because of all the waterways. They have like 3,000
Mhm.
miles of, I don't know, some ungodly amount of waterways
Yeah,
all
it's
through
insane.
Fort Lauderdale. And
Yeah.
I did like that lifestyle. That's a fun lifestyle. People are nice. What I found out was the people that own the yachts are really nice people. They're not really snooty people. They're just
Right.
people like you and me, man. They're just they own a
They
yacht.
they they just were successful and were able to,
Mhm.
afford such things.
Right.
I mean, I lived down there in Fort Lauderdale for quite a while. The one thing that I hated, though, was you could literally be walking down the sidewalk and go through, like, 5 counties,
Yeah.
in, like, 150 feet, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
you
West Broward, uh,
Mhm,
West Broward, they have these lakes that are around these houses. So I'm up
mhm,
measuring roofs and I'm up adjusting hurricane damage, down there. And that's when I moved down there. And I'm up there measuring, doing hurricane damage and from Wilma. And I'm looking at this lake and I'm like, how deep is that lake? Because I don't see the bottom. And they're like, it's 100 feet deep. And I'm like,
mhm,
no way, it's not 100 feet deep. Well, a lot of that was built around these coral rock quarries. And they dug down, got the coral, cut
mhm,
into quarries,
yep,
and they put the roads on top of that. They put those slabs of coral all over the ground down there and they built roads on top of it. And they had really good roads down there
oh,
because
yeah,
you
the
need a good
coral makes a good bedrock, yeah,
oh yeah, good bedrock. So all those quarries are 100 feet deep. So you have all these fish, tarpon, you have all these crazy fish that live in those deep holes down there.
mhm.
And you're like, can I bring my Ginu down and slide it in your backyard? And they're like, yeah, no, no, because they're all private gated. So you're not getting
Yep,
anywhere near those lakes. But
yep.
yeah, man, those are some deep ass lakes in West Broward
Mhm.
out that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're all quarry lakes.
Mhm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, have a good day. Thanks for stopping in on Panic and Rehab and Big Tony. Where can they see you?
You can see me Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, pretty much everywhere. But do me a favor and go follow me on Rumble and YouTube and on Facebook as well. And I will be eternally grateful. And when you come and see me, remember Big Tony will speak on it.
There you go. And empty pockets. I hope your headache is hard, and I hope it's pounding right about now.
Yeah, he
So
had
James,
barstool politics last night, and
I hope James's headache is I bet you. I hope he has ringing in the ears for 3 days after
at
that.
3 o'clock this morning, I checked in, and he was still on there.
The He did write a new song called the Every Dent Tells a Story on his
Yeah,
pickup truck.
yeah.
And
Every dent in my truck tells a story. Yeah.
did you see how similar that truck looked to my pickup truck? That's my work truck. I always buy a backup, so I had a backup truck just in case, and you had to have an air conditioner. I had a backup Jeep, but it wasn't air conditioned, so it was useless to me, right? Useless because in Florida in the summertime it's hot. You need
Yeah.
AC, man. So I bought this old truck for $2,500 and I fixed up the engine, tuned it up. I I tuned up the transmission, oil changes and everything on the transmission. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did it and it runs great. I've changed my fluids frequently. Um, and I put in new brake lines, all new brakes throughout this truck because not only old vehicles, but you want to stop. You just want to make damn sure you stop. So I put in all new brake lines and all new brakes and everything on these old trucks, and then they pretty much run forever if you just you know
Yeah,
baby
if
them
you
a little bit.
maintain them, most of the older trucks will last half of forever if you maintain them properly.
Yeah, and yet
Yeah,
they don't have computers, and they don't have sensors, and they don't
right.
have the little chips that tell Uncle Sam where the hell you are at any moment. So
Yeah,
it's all
I
great.
had an old Ford F-100 that went through 3 generations of my family.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, I
We all
mean,
had that. Yeah, I had a
yeah.
van that was like that. And it had dents in it that I had to pull out, so I did the old, put glued on the little chain thing, that glued on the holders and pulled it out with a whatever you call it. So, yeah, I mean, so anyway, that truck, so I shot a picture of it. I gave that idea to James for writing a song about that. I like the ending of it where it says the police are still looking for the truck. That's why he puts a tarp over it, right? He puts that, but
Right.
I don't put a tarp over my truck. And I'm not wanted by the police. In fact, we had a burglar. I was in Ormond Beach, Daytona. It was a block off the beach in a neighborhood, and the cops were chasing a burglar. And I was up, or I heard them because you really just slept with the windows open, over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You get a nice breeze. You don't really need AC. So I had the windows open and I heard the cops and I heard them halt and I just didn't know that the guy had a gun. So I got up, turned on my lights, and then I assisted the cops. Believe me, they like assistance. I'm like, come on, boys, we'll look in the back over here, because I knew exactly where he was going to run to. And we had a bad house in the neighborhood. So police like me. I'm a big guy. They're like, okay, come on, you're not afraid. And then they said, you might want to step back. He's got a gun. I'm like, you didn't tell me that at the start of the chase. So I'm going back into my house now, and you boys
Right?
handle it from here. Yeah,
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I wish you luck.
yeah. Good luck with that. No, what burglars do when they're getting chased by the police, they will climb onto a roof and hide in the cracks and crevices
Mhm.
of a sloped roof to evade, right?
Yeah,
Believe me, if your guy disappears, if you're chasing somebody and they disappear, they're up, man. They're
probably
up
on
on
a
the
roof.
roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep flashing until you find them, and that's exactly where we found them. And
Right.
then I talked the police to let him go into that bad house so they could go into the house to subdue him. Then we got rid of the bad house all in one night of chasing the burglar right there. That's how you do it. Easy.
Right.
All right,
Right.
buddy. Well, have a great day.
Alright, you have a great one yourself, and y'all have a